Hello, and welcome to Thanks Universe, where I'm sharing all the lessons I'm learning as I am building up my small business. This is week 4 of the quarter. It's the end of the month, and it's progress check-in time with my team. I have had to have 3 very different conversations for our progress check-ins. I'm going to start with the hard ones, letting someone go. Not because they did something wrong, but because their rate of learning isn't keeping up with company needs. That is always the hardest. You know they're a good person, you know that they have the skills, but they are just not able to learn as fast as the company is growing. And for that reason, because they can't keep up with the team, you have to let them go, or the whole team will be dragged down and suffer. So it's not an easy decision and it's not an easy conversation. But the more direct, honest, transparent kind you can be when having this conversation, the better it's going to go. Another conversation I got to have was a fun leadership conversation, taking someone from part-time and bringing them on to full-time, helping them break down their ideal life, the finances that go with that, and how they can partner with the company to make their most delusional dreams a reality. And helping them connect their skills and the tasks that they have to company revenue and progress. Before going full time so they understand with strategic clarity what skills that they have and like how they need to grow as a person to add value not only to the company but also their lives as a whole. So that was a really fun conversation I got to have. And finally, I had some strategic conversations this week. How can someone grow in the company? Laying out progress milestones. So I have someone who's currently a commission-only sales rep who's very interested in becoming full-time with the company. So instead of having them ask me every day or every week, like, I can't wait to be full-time, like, when is that time gonna come? I went ahead and laid out milestones. So it's not like an arbitrary time, like, oh, just wait 3 months and it will take you full time. No, it's not how it works. Especially when one of your core values is to be results oriented. So what I did is I came up with 5 metrics for them to hit in order for them to come full time with us. Number one was to have continuous growth in their sales, so continually be improving. Number two, a minimum for us is to be doing about 400,000 in sales every month in order to be full time with us. That's kind of the revenue number that makes sense. That's what we kind of expect of our full time people to be doing in order to like be with the company full time. Then attitude, right? Like, do you match the company's core values? What are the actions that I see you taking? And do they match the actions we want from someone who gets to have influence over our team or within our team? So that's 3 out of the 5 metrics that I set for them. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they're able to rise to meet these milestones and how they take it. Now, when I had this conversation, it might sound really scary, like these are very lofty goals, but when I did present it to them, it sh they showed me that they were very confident in achieving those, therefore showing me that they are also results oriented. They match one of our core values, believing like if this is required, this is what we're going to do, right? So it was definitely another very fun conversation to have this week. Another thing, instead of just the progress check-ins, is growing the team. So there were 3 different functions where I was expanding this week. First of all, we have a new sales rep at another commission-only position that is coming on board. And I'm going to do it right this time. I'm going to have an onboarding packet. I'm going to put together a checklist of everything I need to do and prepare for them so that when they do come on board, they have everything they need to get started immediately and have the training and resources, like access to the training and resources they need. The next thing was I found some hidden talent at the company. We've been looking for someone who knows Meta, and turns out someone on our quote making team actually has a passion for doing meta marketing, right? So I've asked them to put together a proposal for pushing forward our marketing campaign as a company, and I'm excited to see what they bring to the table. It might be a new area of growth for them on the team, and it will align their time with the company with the passion that they have. So I'm really excited to see what they bring us. And finally, I was managing a service team. So we don't currently have an in-house service team anymore. So we're borrowing our sister company's service team for any of our renovation clients. Barring that, a team that is run differently than how we do things is a real challenge. You need to be even more clear about your expectations and do your best to align incentives. So I kind of did this in three ways. One, I had them sign agreements on expectations. I didn't just verbally say them and have them nod. In simple language, I wrote down basic expectations around the food budget, behavior expectations, etc., had them read it, said it verbally to them to make sure, just in case their reading comprehension wasn't great, that they also heard it auditorily once. And then I had them sign it on site before we even loaded the material or did the tools and equipment checkout process. It's a really good way to inform people, to really make them believe that you're going to hold them accountable for the actions that they take. So that's the main purpose of it. So the second part is material loading. I had a checklist with three columns: what was needed for the job, what we were sending them with, and what material came back. It's always best to send some extra material with your team, especially when doing a renovation job. But it is equally important to track how much extra you send and what comes back to know how many consumables go into a project, and if you're under calculating materials needed for a project and need to start including it in the count for what is needed. And the third thing is tools and equipment check in and check out. So the first thing I did here was to have a checklist of everything that they should need to complete the job. Then I had them check out all the tools and equipment that they were putting into the truck. Finally, I let them know that when they came back, I would check in all the tools and make sure that the tools and equipment were accounted for, even down to my black marker, right? So this is how I handled these three different areas: lead generation, sales, and service, that we were kind of expanding on this week. Now, when it comes to the service, I learned that I need to learn how to figure out how to align incentives, right? I don't want to be a punishing leader. That's really important to me. So, how do I align incentives for my service team, right? I don't want to say, like, if you lose a tool, it comes out of your salary, right? So when I build my own in-house team, I want to find a way to gamify the process and align incentives. I have no clue how I'm going to do this yet. Maybe a game system where all tools are accounted for a quarter, the company takes the whole team out for dinner, or if there are no customer complaints, there's a collective reward of some sort. But I'm not sure about these incentives, like what I'll do with it. I do also need to make sure that these are still in line with the company's budget for the service, right? So that's also needs to be taken into account when I'm figuring out this system. Another thing to make sure of when I do hire my own in-house team is skills versus attitude. Another important lesson, specifically for hiring and managing a service team, is to make sure the hiring process is locked down and tested for skills and attitude. Recently, I've worked with one person who had the attitude, but not the skill, another who had the skill, but not the attitude, and a third person who was hard to judge because he was working between the other two. So by proxy, he seemed to have a little bit of both. So when it comes time to hire our in-house team, I want to make sure that we rigorously test both skill and attitude and only take on people who have both. No hiring for desperation. I will use subcontractors in the meantime if we can't find people who have both skills and attitude. It is so important. And moving on from the service side, I'm going to talk about the power of delegation, but in a different way than you probably are thinking right now, because I've just talked so much about my team, right? Both with the progress check-ins and the growth of the team. The power of delegation, even simple household things, can be huge. This week, as you probably heard from every lesson that I have learned, I have not only checked in with my existing team, let someone go, brought someone new on, but also managed growth in three different areas. I needed help. So I asked my husband to make some of the bookings for the flights and hotels for some upcoming business trips. This seems like such a little thing, but it was such a small administrative task that I was not able to get to it, but it was necessary to get done because the travel was coming up. So sometimes your team is not just your employees, but those around you who want you to succeed and who want to help you. So I made sure that the asks I made of my husband didn't conflict with the three businesses he already had running, but that it also helped me so immensely that I could focus on the bigger tasks this week. So remember the power of delegation and that you can ask your community for support. That's all. And finally, I have some lessons on strategy, but I feel like this week's episode is getting a bit long. So I'm going to save them for next week. And I hope that this has been really helpful for you and that you are learning from my lessons as well. So thanks, universe, and I will see you next week.